Hi Booktube, welcome back to Lady Lovestead Reads. I'm Jessica and this is the Stand with Trans Kids tag. This fantastic tag was created by Leo at Leo Bancroft. If you haven't checked out his channel, please make sure to do so. His and everyone's channel I mention are linked in the description box down below. So without further ado, let's get into the questions. Question 1. Tag some fabulous friends who may also want to do this tag and stand with trans kids. In no particular order, I tag Jan at Jan Agaton, Lee at Lee Ellen Carson, Jane at Lady Jane Books, Jen at Remembered Reads, Spencer at Sphinx Reads, Noelle at Noelle 7 Pages, and any of you watching who have not yet done this tag, I tag all of you. Question 2. Tell us about some books on your TBR pile featuring a trans or non-binary character or nonfiction about trans or non-binary stuff. First, I'd like to read Akwaeke Emeze's entire works. I read their book, The Death of Vivek OJ, last year when I was reading for the BookTube prize. Absolutely love their writing style, so I need to read the rest of their works, and I will pull up the ones that I still need to read here on Goodreads, and I'll just share with you the descriptions. Freshwater is one. Ada begins her life in the south of Nigeria as a troubled baby and a source of deep concern to her family. Her parents, Saul and Sashi, successfully prayed her into existence, but as she grows into a volatile and splintered child, it becomes clear that something went terribly awry. That's the basic gist of that one. Honestly, I don't even need to read these synopses to want to read the rest of Akwaeke Emeze's work because they're just that talented. Okay, Pet is their young adult novel, and it says, there are no monsters anymore, or so the children in the city of Lucille are taught. Jam and her best friend, Redemption, have grown up with this lesson all their life, but when Jam meets Pet, a creature made of horns and colors and claws who emerges from one of her mother's paintings and a drop of Jam's blood, she must reconsider what she's been told. Sounds awesome. And then the other one I want to read is You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. It is their newest release. This is a romance, an adult romance. Faye Edikola wants to learn how to be alive again. It's been 5 years since the accident that killed the love of her life, and she's almost a new person now. An artist with her own studio and sharing a brownstone apartment with her ride-or-die best friend Joy, who insists it's time for Faye to ease back into the dating scene. Faye isn't ready for anything serious, but a steamy encounter at a rooftop party cascades into a whirlwind summer she could have never imagined. Sounds amazing. There are some other books that I want to read. I still need to get to Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. Yadriel has summoned a ghost, and now he can't get rid of him. When his traditional Latinx family has problems accepting his gender, Yadriel becomes determined to prove himself as a real brujo. With the help of his cousin and his best friend Maritza, he performs the ritual himself and then sets out to find the ghost of his murdered cousin and set it free. I've heard nothing but great things about that, and I really need to get to it. And then another one that I want to read is Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. This is a YA novel in verse, and it says a boy comes to terms with his identity as a mixed-race gay teen. Then at university, he finds his wings as a drag artist, the Black Flamingo. Sounds incredible. There are a lot more that I want to read, both by trans and non-binary authors, as well as books that feature trans and non-binary characters, but those are some of them that are, right up there on my to-be-read soon list. Question 3. Recommend a favorite book, show, or movie featuring a trans or non-binary character. I have to recommend Stonebutch Blues by Leslie Feinberg. This is a semi-autobiographical work of historical fiction about a trans character in the 1950s, and it is such a powerful book. Check your trigger warnings, as always, for anything that you read, but I feel like it is one of the foundational texts for literature on trans and non-binary identity, and I wish more people would read it and talk about it. I had the opportunity to actually meet Leslie Feinberg for their, I think it was their 50th birthday party or something like that, because I was doing my master's work for graduate school around that text. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to go because I didn't have the money. It was a party in New York, and I'm in Iowa. Didn't have the money to make the trip. And it's one of my biggest regrets because they did pass of Lyme disease and other tick-related illnesses. And it's one of my biggest regrets in life that I didn't go to their birthday party and meet them in person, because Leslie Feinberg is a personal hero of mine, and that book made such a powerful impact on my life. Question 4. Everyone has their own journey and no one demographic is a monolith. Recommend a book with a journey, however you define that. Okay. For this one, I'm going to recommend George by Alex Gino, because I want to try to stay within that realm of trans and non-binary characters and authors. So George by Alex Gino is actually a work of middle grade contemporary literature, and it's about a young child who is transitioning, and they want to play the girl part in the school play that they're putting on, but the teachers won't let them. And it's a journey, I think. I'm defining it as a journey. I'm working this out in my head as I talk. Defining it as a journey because it really is that character's journey into their trans identity, but it's also the community's journey and trying to learn and understand this child and the best ways to support them in their growth. It's a really lovely story. I do recommend it if you haven't read it yet. Question 5. None of us knows everything, even about our own identities. Isn't that the truth? Especially since we're not a monolith and each of us has our own journey. What is a book that taught you something either about yourself or the world around you? Okay, I have several that I'll recommend here. One that I read this year is So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Oluo. And this is a book about how to be an anti-racist, and she really breaks the information down in such a clear and applicable way. She explains how systemic racism and internalized racism works and why we need to do these steps to become better anti-racists in our personal, professional, and every, area of our lives. This book was so helpful to me. It has really helped me in my own anti-racist work, and I highly recommend it. The next book is Ace by Angela Chin, and this is a work of nonfiction all about asexuality and the meaning of sex in our society. It really does a great job of breaking down the difference between sexuality and romantic attraction, and it gives both the history of asexuality as well as some of the societal issues surrounding asexuality, as well as learning about how to identify if you are on the asexual spectrum or not, breaking down the different more microscopic identities within the asexual community. It really is a fantastic book, and I think that it has a good opportunity, I guess, or a chance of really shifting the way we understand sexuality and relationships in our current world. And then the last one that I'll recommend is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl is a psychologist who survived the concentration camps during World War II, and he writes about finding meaning in your life no matter what your situation is, and how he was able to still find meaning to keep going even while he was in the concentration camp. So that book really changed my life. It's probably the book that has had the biggest impact on me personally in terms of personal growth. And it is kind of difficult to wrap your head around some of the psychological stuff that he's talking about, because he is like a doctorate of psychology, and he has invented basically this new form of therapy called logotherapy. And so it might be helpful to do a little bit of background reading on the psychological sciences and specifically logotherapy and things like that to give yourself some context going into it. But really powerful book, and highly recommend it. Question 6. When things are hard in the world or in our lives, sometimes we Sometimes there are things we can do to help center and refocus ourselves, to bring joy, to keep us going, to keep living, resisting, being our authentically amazing selves. What are the things you do to center yourself or find joy? Well, to center myself, I do pray. I pray a lot to center myself. I struggle with anxiety like any other American does these days. And the thing that brings me the most comfort is just releasing control to God and praying and having faith that God's in control and that God is good. And then to find joy, it's all about nurturing my spaces. So spending time with my animals absolutely brings me joy. My horses bring me joy. Bonding with them brings me joy. Gardening brings me joy. I find a lot of joy in solitary activities. And it's in part because of the culture I live in here in Iowa that I enjoy primarily solitary activities. I can't say that I feel like I've got a community that brings me joy in my current geographical location, but I do have a community of online friends that bring me joy to interact with and to spend time with, and a lot of those people are y'all here on BookTube, so thank you for that. But yeah, that would be the main thing, is prayer and spending time with my animals and gardening. 7, what is your walk-on music or your feel at home in your body music? Okay, don't make fun of me for this, but it's Harry Styles. I adore Harry Styles music, and if you ever go to one of his shows, one of his biggest takeaways that he wants you to take home with you is just the power of accepting yourself, your truest self, being yourself, and loving that truest form of yourself. He likes to create a space where it's an absolute safe space to be whoever you are when you're at one of his shows. His music really gives me that sense of embracing everyone's authentic selves and the fullness of who they are. And I would say the song that does this the best for me is his song, Treat People with Kindness. So if you haven't listened to that one, definitely give it a go. Question 8. Finding mentors, people of wisdom, or heroes can be another way to help us navigate life. Who are some of your mentors? Can you share something they taught you or inspired you to learn more about? This was a hard one for me because as I was thinking about the people in my life who attempted to play a mentor role, those people actually ended up being quite abusive, and I have not had many good mentors in my life, but there are 2 that I was able to suss out. So the first one was my undergraduate advisor when I was getting my French degree. Her name is Dee Dee, and she really mentored me about the kind of educator that I wanted to become, which was basically I wanted to be Dee Dee. I wanted to be just like her, and the kind of educator I wanted to embody, which is someone who is compassionate and clear and open. She's also someone who is just kind of this beacon of calm, and she is like the calm ship guiding us through the storms of life while I was at school and under her tutelage. And so that's something that I strive to be for my own students. The second mentor that I can think of is actually someone that I have in my life right now, and that is the barn manager and trainer I'm working with at the ranch where my horses are boarded. He is a Vietnam War veteran. He has had an incredible life, and I'm learning so much from him, not just about horses, but just about life in general. And one of the most important lessons he has been teaching me lately is the power of small steps forward rather than giant leaps, and that you don't always have to be moving 6 feet ahead, that even 6 inches forward counts for something. So that's my answer to that question. Okay, question 9. Who are some out, trans, or non-binary booktubers, Instagrammers, authors, actors, etc. who you would like to shout out? And I have a list. First, of course, I need to shout out Leo, the creator of this tag. Please go check out his channel. Leo is one of the most compassionate booktubers I think I know, and Leo inspires me to be better. I'm very inspired by Leo and what he does with his channel. Next, Jessie at Bowties and Books, Kevy at Say Kevy, and James at James's Space. These are all out trans or non-binary creators here on BookTube. And then there's another Instagrammer who's not necessarily a booktuber or a bookstagrammer, but someone I just think is really inspiring. And their name is Jeffrey Marsh, and they're on Instagram. They post a lot of like psychology stuff and mental health stuff. So I will leave you a link to their Instagram page below as well. 10. What are some organizations you'd like to shout out for supporting trans kids or trans folks? So I live in Iowa, and Iowa's not a great fit unless you are rich, white, male, cis-het, able-bodied, okay? So Iowa's a hard place to live unless you fit that category. The people in power are really attacking trans kids in our state. We're right up there with probably some of the worst actors out there when it comes to civil rights, when it comes to women's rights, when it comes to LGBT rights. And it's so disappointing to me because we haven't always been this way. For a while there, like when I was in grad school, this was a pretty great place. We were actually one of the first states in the nation to legalize gay marriage, and we have taken some severe steps backwards in the past 6 years. It is not a fun place to live anymore. And so the organization that I would like to shout out is One Iowa. And One Iowa is a nonprofit organization working to support and secure rights for LGBT people in the state of Iowa. I actually served on the advisory board for this organization in 2019. It's a fantastic organization. They're doing really good work. They're doing really hard work right now because, as I said, this is not a great state to be in if you are a trans person. So if you have the capacity to do so, please consider making a donation to One Iowa. With that, I will leave you with being tagged in this tag video if you haven't done it yet. I support and love you if you are trans. I support and love you if you are non-binary. And for those of you who are here and just want to let me know that you're here, go ahead and leave me any kind of heart emoji in the color of the trans or non-binary flag in the comments below. And until next time, make sure that you continue to read good books, drink good coffee, take care of yourselves and each other.